video is going to be my most used eyeshadow palettes of 2022. I've been seeing this video around, and most people like decide to film this at the end of the year, and I think I'm going to start adding it to like my best in beauty. This is kind of part of my best in beauty, and it's also a way for me to tell you guys not just ranking all the palettes that I tried in 2022, because those are all new palettes that I tried last year, but I'm actually going to tell you guys out of the ones that I did add to my collection, or also ones that I added last year, which ones I used the most this past year, because most of these, of course, my most used brand is going to be ColourPop, but there are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 specific palettes that I really did use a ton this year. And then there's going to be one that I just constantly reached for in the past 2 months. Maybe I didn't use it as often as another palette, but I mean, I think I'm going to include this other palette too. I wasn't going to, but I think I'm going to. Like, originally it was going to be my top 12 most used palettes, but I'm going to include this one as well. So the first brand that I really want to talk about, and obviously you guys know I fell in love with this brand this year, is Sigma. And of course the palette that, you know what, sorry, I had to rearrange myself again. By the way, today I'm just filming because I decided to stay home and work on my paper today. I am actually almost done with it. Like, I only have a page and a half left, and I've already done 2 out of the pages because I only needed it to be a 3 to 4 page paper. So I was going to make it like 3.5, maybe almost 4 pages, but I'm halfway through. So I just decided to throw on some makeup. So I didn't put on any jewelry today. I didn't see the point. I'm not even leaving my house today. And this is like the first time that I haven't left my house since Christmas. So we're just going to get into my most used eyeshadow palette. So of course, like I said, the brand that I fell in love with this year is Sigma, and this was definitely my most used palette of 2022, and that is the Sigma Ambiance palette. I could not talk about my most used eyeshadow palettes without mentioning this one. This I was literally reaching for almost every single time I did a neutral look. Back when I first got it, I just kept on using it. I fell in love with their formula and their brand, and I just think that their brand is so easy to use, and I just love it. I think it's gorgeous. I think that you guys know why I love this palette so much. It's because it's a warm tone dream to me. I've been raving about this palette all year, and I just wanted to say that I had an absolute pleasure of working with this palette. I think it's fabulous, and I love the quality. The mattes are super pigmented and blendable, and the shimmers are absolutely stunning. So when I was ranking my palettes, I swatched all of my favorite shades. Like, I just swatched like my favorite shade from each palette. Like, I didn't swatch like a gajillion shades. And if you guys want to see looks with these palettes, I have first impressions with all of these looks on my channel. And I also probably did at least 2 to 3 looks with this on my channel this past year. So if you guys want to see it in action, you can go check that out. I'm not going to swatch like my favorite. I'm going to swatch my next favorite shade. I'm going to swatch at least 1 shade from each palette again. So this one is called Sunflower, and this is more of their standard shimmer formula, and it's a gorgeous gold shade. You guys know I love golds, but this one is not your typical colored gold. It's kind of more like a very yellowy bronzy gold, but it's still like more unique to the golds that I own, because it has like this beautiful unique yellowish almost penny-like reflection to it, and it's so stunning. Again, I cannot rave about Sigma enough. So if you guys are looking for a good warm tone palette, and I think I said this in my last video, or I'm not sure if I did, but I would compare the Sigma palettes to like similar color stories and kind of like a similar like series of palettes to the Naked palettes from Urban Decay, and I would say pick up a Sigma palette over the Urban Decay palettes. Like if a Sigma palette is accessible to you, you're pretty much gonna get the same vibe than that you would from a Naked palette, and I think that their formula is above and beyond better than Urban Decay's. I mean, it's so funny that I used to be such a huge fan of Urban Decay. They used to be like one of my favorite brands. But every time I wear a Sigma palette, someone always compliments my eye makeup. I don't know why, but I think it's because it always looks stunning because Sigma's formula is amazing. But it's like, it's so funny that I get like more compliments on like, and I'm not saying like everybody needs to compliment me every day. Sometimes like it's a little bit annoying when people point out my makeup. I'm just like, thanks. Like, I don't know what else to say. But I'll get like such compliments on if I wear like a neutral palette from this look or from this palette, or I'll wear the other Sigma palette that I own, and I get a compliment almost every single time because their shimmers are just phenomenally beautiful. So I don't have anything else to say about this palette. I was reaching for this literally almost every day when I got it, and I just could not wait to dip into it again every single time. And this ranked very high in my rankings for all the palettes that I tried in 2022. I just fell in love with this brand this year. And then, of course, this was the palette that I just grabbed, but I was like, I did use it a lot this past year, and that is the other palette from Sigma, and that is the Sigma New Mod palette. Granted, I didn't use this one as much as the Ambiance palette, but I used it enough to include it in this video because I was going to use another ColourPop palette that I didn't really use as much as these other palettes, but I did get it like later in the year. But I was like, if I'm mentioning that one, like, why don't I mention this one too? So this one, again, absolutely stunning. I almost might love the shimmer selection more in this palette because there is a little bit more variation and depth to them. The matte selection I wasn't absolutely crazy over, but I do love that this palette offers a brow bone highlight, and I do love the deeper berry tones in here. They're so beautiful and pigmented. Like this shade, Voguish, is such a stunning berry toned matte. I'm sorry if like the packaging's like reflecting off of the light a little bit, but that's the way that Sigma does their packaging, so I can't change that. Because they always make like this super reflective metallic inside. But I just want to move this over. I just feel like I'm so cramped right now. This is just gorgeous. I do wish that there was a little bit more depth in the like mattes here, but other than that, I think it's stunning. Again, had absolutely no issues with the formula. They just perform so well, and I might be eyeing another Sigma palette for later in the year. I'm trying to be on a no-buy right now because I really just don't need another eyeshadow palette at the current moment. I mean, when do I truly need an eyeshadow palette? Pretty much never, but I just knew as soon as I tried the Ambiance palette that I was dying to try another palette from Sigma. And I'm so glad I decided to try this one. I don't know why I keep on getting my hair caught on the palettes right now. It's driving me nuts. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this. It's super buttery smooth, easy to work with. The shimmers are so lightweight and beautiful on the eyes. Truly, you don't know how magical Sigma's shimmers are until they're on your eyes, because the swatches are beautiful, but the multi-glitters really show up on your lid. I do love that there's kind of like this cool toned corner of like mattes and shimmers, and basically you can use like these 6 shades in one look, and then you can deepen it up with this really dark deepening brown shade. And then the shimmers are like, I love how it transitions more into like kind of these warmer tone, almost reddish based berry tones, and then you go into like the berry quad here, and then of course y'all know I love my gold, and this gold's amazing, and then you have this really deep dark matte. So I do love that it goes from light to dark. I just wish that there was kind of one more berry tone in here. But you know, I'm always picky. So the one I'm going to swatch from here, I think I'm just going to do Avant-Garde. This is a stunning shade. It's a little bit thin, but it's like a gorgeous duochrome. And again, it's more of like a super sparkly, almost topper shade. But Sigma shimmers are very, very pigmented. So when you pop it on your eyes, it just reflects so super sparkly and beautiful. And I have compared Sigma's shimmers to Glam Lights before. I feel like they're very similar. So yeah, I love this palette. Sorry, I'm going to stop blinding you guys because it's annoying me too. So yeah, love this palette. I think it's gorgeous. Sorry if I don't have like that much energy talking right now, but your girl is tired. I went to sleep pretty late last night, but also I knew I wasn't really going to be doing much today. So that is the two Sigma palettes that I got this year, and I absolutely fell in love with the brand. So now let's go into my most used ColourPop palettes this year. And I would say my top 5 most used ones would be these 5 right here. So we're going to go ahead and jump into those. I'm not going to go in any specific order of like what type, but I will go through the ones that I reached for the most. The first one would be the ColourPop Plush Like Me palette. I have talked about how surprised I was on how much I actually ended up loving this palette. I would not have tried it if I didn't get it for free with an order. I probably would have just never tried it and just skipped over it constantly, but I am so glad I tried this palette. Like I said before, this is so much more beautiful in person than it looks on the website. And I also love the velvet packaging. I'm just so glad I was able to use it this year. I really did not think I was going to use this as much as I did, but I think the reason why is because there's so much depth in the actual in the mattes. Like you have a light matte, and then you have these mustardy tones, and you have like these warmer browns, you have this olivey green, and then you have these deep dark mattes on the bottom. And that's what I really love about certain ColourPop palettes, is when they put these different variations of deepening shades in a palette, it really makes me reach for the palette way more than the ones that they don't really offer those types of shades in. And also, I'm a 90s girl, so this is kind of speaking to my soul a little bit more than some other collections that they did. But again, when I saw this online, I was not interested in this collection at all. I was like, oh, that's hella boring. And then when I got it and played with it, I'm like, this is stunning. And I think I said before that the person I really need to give credit to be super intrigued to try this palette is Makeup by Treens. She mentioned this in her best palettes of 2021, I believe, because this palette came out in 2021, but I didn't try it until the tail end of 2021, so that's why I included it in my 2022 rankings, because I didn't have time to rank it in my ColourPop ranking video, because I did try way more ColourPop palettes last year. In 2021 that I did last year in 2022, I mean. I think I tried almost 10 ColourPop palettes last year, but I am planning on decluttering another one, and I did declutter, I believe, I'm planning on decluttering 2 palettes that I did rank in the 2021 rankings, so look at me decluttering ColourPop palettes, but I have a few in my bag that I'm going to be decluttering, so this palette's gorgeous. The shimmers are so buttery and stunning in this palette. So the one that I swatched in that video was Video Night. But also the reason why I love this shade so much is because it's so nostalgic to me, because Video Night in the 90s would mean going to Blockbuster and renting a movie. And it brings back memories of me and my sister and my brother going with my mom and fighting over which movie we were going to buy, or which movie we were going to rent to watch. And my brother always wanted to rent like the same 5 movies. And me and my sister would always be like, no, we want to do this one. And then I would say a Disney movie every single time. And then my sister was usually the one that was the decider because she would always either pick something out that was new, or she was kind of like, when two siblings fight all the time, the third one is always the one that ends up making the decision. So yeah, I loved it. So, but my other favorite shade in here is Knee Highs, because this is a stunning, like, the metallics are so super smooth in this palette. It's like a super stunning red metallic, and I absolutely love it. Do you see how smooth that is? Like, if ColourPop had this quality in every single palette that they did, I think a lot more people would love their brand. Because even though some people say, like, I feel like they're consistent across the board, and I do feel like that is true, but that all amethyst palette compared to this one is like night and day. This palette is phenomenal. I love it, and I love these deepening mattes. I just want to swatch one of these for you guys because they are so pigmented. This one is Velvet One. I swear, you guys, I was just as surprised by the formula in this palette as you guys are, because they were just such a breeze to work with. And you guys will see in my first impressions of trying this palette that I was just blown away. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And this brow bone highlight is phenomenal. And I just love this palette so much. So let's stop rambling about it and move on. But I just wanted to tell you guys that this is a great freaking palette. So, but the first 3 palettes that I'm mentioning from ColourPop are all ones that I tried at the end of 2021. And this was also another palette that I got for free from ColourPop. And I was so surprised that I wasn't as surprised about this one as I was about the Plush Like Me one, because that one, like, I wasn't really interested at all in. But this one, like, was kind of, I was debating on for a little while, and then I decided to skip over it. And then I kind of knew I was going to try it at some point. And I, again, took the opportunity to try it. Oh my God, why is this driving me nuts? I took the opportunity to try it. Okay, let's figure out the situation really quick, because I'm getting my hair cut finally on Friday, because my hair has been driving me literally bonkers, and I just have not gotten a haircut in a while. Haircuts have gotten so dang expensive. So I figured since I have all this time away from work, I would finally go get my hair cut. So anyway, this palette I tried free with that order that I tried the Plush Like Me palette with. They were doing like this amazing promo where they were saying if you ordered like $25 or more, you got 1 free palette, and then $50 or more, you got 2 free palettes. But they were only a selection of like 5 palettes you could choose from. And out of the 5, I knew I wanted to try these 2. So the second one, and my other most used 12 pan this year, was the Limoncello palette. I used this so much in the springtime, but I also used it quite a bit in December through February. I'm not necessarily going to do that this winter season, because I definitely have some other palettes that I am using and wanting to go back to. But this palette really did surprise me on how much I ended up loving it. I mean, to be honest, the reason why I love this palette is because it's mostly a neutral palette. Basically, if you cover up these 2 shades, you got yourself a warm tone neutral palette. But the shimmers in here are so gorgeous. And I didn't swatch like my favorite shade in my rankings video, because I included this in my 2021 rankings, because I was able to try this palette I think 3 times before I ranked it. The Plush Like Me, I don't think I had even tried it yet, or I might have tried it like once, and I don't think that was enough, obviously, for me to rank it. I like to try my palettes at least 3 times. If it's not a ColourPop palette, I will almost try every single shade before I will review it or rank it. But if it's a ColourPop palette, I know how their formula is going to be. And this formula across the board, as just like the Plush Like Me, is amazing. Like, these shimmers are so ridiculously smooth. I love this shade, Touring, on my inner corners. I probably think that ColourPop's light tone shimmers are my all-time favorite inner corner highlights because they brighten up the inner corners so much in a way that like no other shimmers do. They're just stunning. But this shade Touring is so ridiculously brightening. And then this one, Serenade, is such a gorgeous pure yellow shimmer. I absolutely love it. And then Capri is such a gorgeous green tone shimmer. And then this shade, Easy Peasy, it doesn't look like much in the pan, but it has like this amazing like duochrome shift to it. It's so gorgeous. And then this shade, Fly Girl, is a stunning peachy shimmer. And y'all know how much I love those kind of shades. And then the mattes are just so easy to work with in here. I mean, yes, we have 3 brown tones, but y'all know I love this deeper brown. I'm so glad that they included this. And this red works as a really good deepening shade as well. And then with the yellow and the blue combo, oh my God, those were some of my favorite looks to do with this. What I would love to do with this is do the yellow, like this shade, and pop this on the lid and this on the outer corners. And this on the lower lash line. It was so gorgeous. I cannot tell you how much I loved doing that look. I'm going to swatch the shade Serenade because it's such a stunning yellow. So let's do that one. And this one is so metallic and smooth. It's insanely beautiful. I love it. So I cannot rave about this palette enough. It's gorgeous. I don't know if they still have it available, but originally all I got from this collection was the brush set. And I literally use these 2 brushes like every single day that I do my makeup, that I do my eye makeup. I use those 2 brushes. So I was like, maybe I should finally try the palette, and I love it. It's amazing. And then I decided to try the blush stick from this collection as well, and I love that too. So this palette's amazing. I am already rambling way too much about these palettes. I was like, I'm not going to be filming for that long. Okay, 2 9 pans I really wanted to talk about. My most used 9 pan from ColourPop this year is, again, one that I got from the tail end of 2021. I used this a crap ton last year. I love this palette. And my most used 9 pan was the Or Kid You Not palette. Oh my God, you guys, I can't believe how long it took me to try this palette, but this is one of my all-time favorite ColourPop palettes. The depth and dimension that this palette offers in just a simple 9 pan is so good. The mattes are slightly drier in this palette, but it's because they're so pigmented. And the shimmers in here are so beautiful on the lid. They're a bit more piecey and not as super smooth as the ones in the Plush Like Me and Limoncello, but they are stunning. And I just love the depth and dimension that these 4 mattes offer. Like, you have this plum, you have like this more reddish brown, right? No, that's not, yeah. It's kind of more of a reddish brownish purpley shade. It's so unique, honestly. I don't have any other ColourPop shade like that. And then this like deepening grapey purple, and then this deep dark purpley brown. They're amazing. And then these shimmers, this shade Pretty One is such a gorgeous like lavender silver. This center shade, OMG, was probably my most used shade in the palette. It's such a stunning shimmer. And then Seedlings, like this grapey shimmery color. And then this one, of All Purple, is like a stunning lavender duochrome. It's phenomenal. I love this palette so much. I think my favorite shade is Pretty One. It's like a super lavender. It's a very unique color for ColourPop. Oh my God, look at that. Isn't that so pretty? That's why it's called Pretty One, because it's literally stunning. And it's like this gorgeous, super shiny lavender. And again, I loved popping that on my inner corners. I absolutely love this palette. I used it so much. I even brought this to Becca's wedding, and the makeup artist used this on the other bridesmaid, and the look that she did was so gorgeous. She put this one all over her lid, and it was so beautiful. I was like, she definitely could use this for her wedding, because Becca wanted like plummy tones or like mauvey tones for our eyes. So absolutely love it. It's amazing. I'm just going to swatch one of the mattes in here. I guess I'll just do Buddies. It's like a gorgeous like cool tone purple shade. Look at that. It's a little bit like patchy, but on the eyes, these blend out like a dream. Like you really can't judge these palettes by their swatches. They're just, this palette was raved about for a reason last year. This one and the Limoncello palettes were probably the most talked about ColourPop palettes in 2021 because they're amazing. Like I love this palette, and again, I used it so much last year, so I love that one. Okay, and then my other most used 9-pan, and I'm actually wearing this one on my eyes today. I wanted to wear at least one of these palettes for you guys today, is the Nude Mood palette. I didn't think I was going to use this palette as much as I did. I mean, yes, it is a neutral palette, but I can't not mention which palette that I used the most without mentioning this one. I was reaching for this a ton when I got it, and as you can tell, I've used it a lot. It's just gorgeous. It's such an easy palette to use, and I actually didn't expect to fall in love with this one as much. I might even like this one even more than the Going Coconuts palette because I love my warm tones. I am such a warm tone neutrals girl that this one is warm tones, warm tone mattes. But the shimmers in here, again, are so ridiculously stunning and beautiful because they're so super sparkly and shimmery. These two shades, Put On Airs and Wink Wink, are like these super sparkly shimmers that just make your eyes sparkle. And then this shade, Lap of Luxe, which is the one I have all over my lid today, is a super smooth brown chocolatey metallic. It's gorgeous. And then the mattes are just so easy to work with in here. I love this palette for every day, and I love that there's a brow bone highlight in here as well. It's just such a good palette. So my favorite shade in here, I love Wink Wink and Put On Airs. I think Wink Wink is my favorite because it's such a stunning, like super shifty, sparkly shimmer. It's just so gorgeous. And I just fell in love with this super sparkly metallic formula from ColourPop this year. I mean, I know this palette is like from 2020, but I didn't try it until last year. I didn't try it at the tail end of 2021. I tried this like I think summer of 2022, and I used this a ton. I love it so much. I definitely reached for this more than the Going Coconuts this past year. And again, the mattes are just so easy to work with. So what I have on my eyes today is I just used All Natural in the crease. Then I darkened up the crease more with Mugged Off, and then I used Moody on the outer corners, and then I used Lap of Luxe on the lid, and then I took Bluffin' on the brow bone, because duh, and then I used Wink Wink on the inner corners. And do you see how much it's like brightens up my inner corners? It's so super sparkly and gorgeous. So I love this palette, and I'm so happy I tried this. I mean, again, when it first came out, I was like, I don't need it because I don't need another neutral palette. But after trying this, I knew I was going to use it so much because it just impressed me so much with the formula. So I love this one. So definitely one of my most used palettes last year. And then the last like 12-pan is the In the Springs palette. Now this one, I knew I was going to love it, but I think that the palettes with like more so half color, half neutral palettes were my like favorite format that ColourPop did, and some of my most used palettes from ColourPop last year, because I really loved like the mostly warm palettes with like a pop of color, like blues or like super summery kind of color schemes. But originally I was not going to get this palette, but this one is just probably my favorite color story out of the ones that I'm talking about because it's just so gorgeous. And Again, if you guys know me, I love warm tone eyeshadows, and this was my most used summer palette of 2022. I used this so much. I could not wait to use it again because every look that I did was so stunning. I would say this is not super similar to the formula in the Limoncello and the Plush Like Me. But I would say that these shimmers are much more sparkly. And that's what really made me fall in love with ColourPop shimmers last year, is because this shade, these three shades here, Private, Event, Hot Tub, and Climb Time, are so ridiculously sparkly. And then this one, Prick Me, is such a stunning Super Shock shadow. This is probably my favorite Super Shock shadow I've tried from them in a palette this past year. It's gorgeous. And then the mattes in here are just so pigmented. And again, I love that they offer these deepening shades on the bottom, because that really is a game changer for me with their palettes, because I reach for ColourPop palettes over any other brand in my collection. Like, I use them almost every day. And I also love this super deep royal blue shade. It's gorgeous. So I think my other favorite shade in here is Climb Time, because it's such a gorgeous turquoise. I mean, hello. It's really beautiful. I also love the teal matte shade. But you guys know I'm a shimmer girl, so I'm just going to swatch this one. I think I swatched Hot Tub in the countdown video. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's such a pretty turquoise shimmer. But I just loved doing like an orange look with a pop of blue on the lower lash line. It was just so beautiful. Like, those were my favorite like spring and summer looks to do, was like a neutral eye with like a blue, one of the blue mattes from this palette or the Limoncello palette. They were gorgeous. And then this shade Prick Me is just so super sparkly. I love it. But I did some gorgeous looks with this palette. And again, every time I did my makeup with this, I would usually always get a compliment, like, on how much people liked my eye makeup that day, because it's so gorgeous. So yeah, I have nothing else to say about this palette. And this orange is amazing as well. Okay, so I think my mom is going to start vacuuming. I thought she was going to go to the supermarket. I don't know why she's vacuuming right now, but I thought I could just finish filming, and then I have to make a few phone calls to my school for my spring semester classes. This is gorgeous. Love the orange, love the teal, love the blues, love the depth in here. It's amazing. And the reason why I tried this palette was because of Andrea Mattiliano. She kept on absolutely raving about it. And again, I was not going to try it. But I was like, I kept on eyeing it. I'm like, I'm just going to get it. And I absolutely fell in love with it. So, again, I really need to listen to my instinct and actually just buy the dang palette. So, 2 more ColourPop palettes. The next one was... If you guys watched my video, you'll see how high this palette ranked. I'm not going to tell you where it ranked because you're going to have to watch that video. But I have to mention the Back to Hogwarts palette, the Harry Potter palette. I know, again, that this palette was so reeked in controversy, but I have to mention it because I used this a ton. This was my most used big palette from ColourPop in my collection this year. I mean, granted, it was my only one, but I really did not think I was going to use this palette as much as I did. And I've used almost every single shimmer again in this palette except for Gillyweed. That's how much I used it again. So I've used this a ton, and I raved about it in my rankings video, so I'm not going to talk about it too long. But I love the mattes in here. I love the shimmers in here. I really think that they just made this formula really special, and a lot of people that tried this palette said the same thing, that they think that they just upped the formula in this one, which they tend to do with their collaboration palettes, but there really is just something special to this formula. It's absolutely stunning. The shimmers are literally so different on the eyes, and they swatch, and the mattes are just so easy to work with. And I love the dividing of the warm tones and the blue and cool tones, because it almost feels like you're getting 2 separate palettes, like 2 different 12 pans. Like, these could literally work as 2 different 12 pans. If you actually cover this up, this would be a gorgeous green blue palette, and if you cover this up, this would be a gorgeous warm tone palette. And this is Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, and this is Ravenclaw and Slytherin. It's just, I love it. It's gorgeous. And then I think in that video, I said Patronus was my favorite shade. I think my other favorite shade has to be Golden Snitch because, of course, I love the golds. I love the golds. And this shade is amazing. This palette is amazing. But yeah, I love it. So I don't have anything else to say about it because I've used it so much and I've raved about it so much. I think I have like 3 looks with this on my channel. So if you guys want to see this palette in action, I would check out those videos. But yeah, I absolutely love this one. And I used it a ton. And I literally could not wait to use it every single time I used it. So that is the Back to Hogwarts palette. And then the last palette from ColourPop, excuse me. And then we'll move on to just a couple more brands. We only have 4 more palettes to talk about after ColourPop. And the last one is the Not a Box of Chocolates palette. This is the most recent ColourPop palette to my collection. But I had to mention it because I did use it a ton in November and December. This was definitely my most used neutral palette that I got in November. And I love it. I think that this palette is gorgeous. I've raved about it a ton, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. I do love that there's more mid-tone browns in here. And I love that you can create a bunch. It just offers so much depth for a neutral palette. And again, I really love this 16-pan format. A lot of people ranked this very high in their rankings because they said that this was one of the best ColourPop palettes of the year. There is a bit of kick up to these mattes, so the quality is good in this palette. I think that the shimmers are better in here than the mattes are. The mattes are great, but they're a little bit powdery for me. But they're still really good and pigmented. I would prefer like the In the Springs palette or the Kid You Not palette over the mattes in here. But it's a gorgeous neutral palette. I love it. And I think in that video I said Honeycomb Crunch was my favorite. I mean, I love the pressed glitter in here. I just wore this as the last time that I wore this palette. And this one is called Peanut Brittle. I was actually wearing this palette in my Complexion Products Best in Beauty video. And this was the shade that I wore all over my lid. It's such a stunning, like, almost pressed glitter shade, but it's not like the same texture as their pressed glitters used to be. It's kind of similar to like the Hocus Pocus pressed glitter that they have in the first Hocus Pocus palette. It's like a very pigmented glittery shimmer. I love it. And then the mattes are just so beautiful, and I love like these super deep dark shades, especially this one. And then there's also this dark chocolate shade. So there's just so much depth and dimension that this palette offers, and I can't rave about enough. It's beautiful. I really did want one of the lip products from this as well, like from this collection, but I just decided to get the palette at the time, and also the lip products were sold out. But I think that they nailed the chocolate theme, okay? It literally looks like a box of chocolates. I love it. So that is all the ColourPop palettes I wanted to mention. Okay, so then my other most used palette is, again, a palette I tried. And these are non-ColourPop palettes, but I just wanted to mention this one really fast. And then the other 3 are kind of honorable mentions. I mean, the other one I did use quite a bit last year, and the other 2 I used a lot during like a certain season. So I'm still going to include them. So the other palette I really wanted to mention was the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge palette, because this was probably the most surprised that I used this palette so much, like the Plush Like Me palette. This is probably the most surprising palette that I used and reached for in 2022, besides the Plush Like Me palette. I mean, this palette is absolutely stunning. The jewel tones in here are so gorgeous. I love like the depth and dimension that this offers, and I love like I just love this color story. It's so gorgeous. I love the berry tones. I love the blues. I love the mint shades. And I love like these neutral, even like these neutrally shimmers, like the gold and this shade are so stunning. Like there's something about the shimmers in this palette over the Feats de Provence and the Hudson Valley that are just so gorgeous because, again, they have like those super sparkly micro glitters in them that just make them so unique and beautiful. So in that video, I said that this shade was my favorite in my rankings video, which it is my favorite. And then Ski Bum is amazing, and so is Black Comb. But my other favorite shade is Up to Snow Good. I mean, it's so hard to actually pick a favorite shade in here. I mean, obviously Whistler is still my favorite, but the mattes in here, just, I thought that this palette was so above and beyond that it was really hard to beat the quality of this palette over the other two that I tried. I mean, they're both still great, but this one was still my favorite, and this one is Up to Snow Good. And it's kind of very similar to the Plush Like Me color. I actually did not even realize that, but it's such a gorgeous red. Oh my god, I love it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention this. And also I did reach for this quite a bit this past December. I still used it twice in the month of December, so I think that's great. And I'll be continuing to use this throughout the winter season, but I used this a ton in February and March when I got it, and then I've been using it a lot in this past winter season. I mean, I probably didn't use it that much in the summertime. I think I used it at least once. I can't remember, but I used it a ton when I first got it, and I love it. And then I just love the depth and dimension that these deeper mattes give, like this green and this blue and this deepening brown. Oh my god, they're so beautiful! And these shimmers, just amazing. Absolutely love this palette. There's so much that I can do with this palette, and again, I feel like they made blue wearable for me, and blue was one of my favorite colors to wear last year. So like I said, I kind of fell in love with colorful looks last year. So that one is the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge. Absolutely love this palette. Highly recommend. Okay, and then the other palette I wanted to mention is the Alien Cosmetics Fall Magic palette. They are called Unearthly Cosmetics now, but when I bought this palette, I think that this was the last palette that was called, was named, oh my god, can I speak today? That was under the Alien Cosmetics company name. And this one I got, I think in like November last year, not last year, in 2021. And I used this a lot in 2022. It is such a stunning palette, you guys. Like, the mattes just blend so amazingly, and the shimmers in here are so gorgeous. And I think my favorite shade would have to be, I mean, there's so many gorgeous shades in here. I would say Autumn is my favorite because it's such a stunning orangey shimmer. Oh, I love their formula. It's just so beautiful. And that one is Autumn. Like, their shimmers are so gorgeous on the eyes. And their mattes just blend so amazingly. They are pigmented, but they blend so gorgeous. And I'm going to swatch this green because it's so pretty. It's like this gorgeous forest green. I'm kind of running out of room, but it's amazing. I absolutely love this palette, and I used this quite a bit this past fall as well. Like, I still went back to it and used it this fall because I definitely wanted to. And I love it. I think I used it like 2 or 3 times this past fall, and I just absolutely am obsessed with my makeup every single time I use this palette. Sorry, my nose is running a little bit. But I also love that there's this deep green and this deep brown and this deep purple in here. So it offers like this beautiful depth and dimension. And y'all know I was looking for like more of these mauve tones from brands last year. I love it. And I love this gold cashmere shade. And this change shade is like a duochrome because it's like purpley and it shifts like on your eyes. And this green is amazing. And this purple, I love this palette so much. It's amazing. So this is still the one and only palette that I've tried from Unearthly, but I love it. So I don't think I'm going to try any other ones. But I am wanting to try some of their cheek products this year. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. But yeah, I really like this palette. It's gorgeous. And then the last 2 palettes I wanted to mention were both from Odin's Eye. I mean, I can't not mention my most used eyeshadow palettes if I don't mention Odin's Eye. And obviously the first one would be the Angelica Nyquist and Hella palette from Odin's Eye. I used this a lot in the springtime, and then I used it quite a bit in the fall time as well. So I feel like this is a very versatile palette where you can kind of use it year round. Where like I would use more so like the greens and the pinks in the springtime, and then in the wintertime I went for more so these like cooler tone shades, like this shifty, oh my god, this shade is beautiful. This shade Complete is like a gray tone blacky shimmer. It's amazing. And then like blacky, like black based. And then this Golden Bridge shade is amazing. It's like a mustardy greeny gold. So pretty. And then this shade is definitely probably my other favorite. This is the multi-chrome, which is called double-sided. But you know what's funny is that this is probably the only shade that I have not dipped into again in this palette. But it is so stunning. It's like this insanely gorgeous, shifty duochrome. Okay, there is absolutely no room on my hand. I'm going to put it up here, actually, because I don't know why I keep on swatching down there. This is a stunning, shifty, like peachy, pinky, greenish, multi-chrome. I've been talking too long. And it's amazing. I love it. I really need to use that more. But I really love like the depth and dimension that this offers, where you can do green looks, you can do pink looks, you can do something really cool tone with these shades. And this shade River is also amazing. It's like this super... It just literally looks like liquid water because it shifts so many different shades on your eyes. I mean, again, the magic of Odin's Eye shimmers are going to be when you apply them, because swatching them a million times is not going to show how beautiful they are. But yeah, I love this palette. It's amazing. I think they knocked it out of the park. And I end up absolutely falling in love with the Legendary Diversa collection every time they come out with a new one. So I'm very looking forward to who the next collaborator is going to be that they collaborate with this year. And then the last palette I had to mention is the Merry Christmas palette, because I have to say that this was my most used Christmas palette this past winter season. Like, just because I didn't use it throughout the whole year, because obviously it didn't come out until like November. I still used it a ton. And I have to mention it because it was just so breathtakingly gorgeous. And just because, like, I think I mentioned mostly like my top 5 palettes in this video, which was the Harry Potter, the Sigma, this one, and the In the Springs palette. I used them a ton last year. So I'm still going to mention my top 5 palettes. So I think the only one that I didn't mention was yeah, I think I mentioned all of them actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what was 5? What was number 5? Hold the phone. I think I just got it though, so I think that's why maybe I didn't. But I think I did. Was the 2 Sigma palettes, Harry Potter, Odin's Eye, and what was the other one? Yeah, I mentioned all of them. Yeah, I did. So those were my top 5 palettes. So this one was like number 4, so spoiler alert. But these shimmers in here are so insanely gorgeous that there was no way I couldn't mention this one. But I used this basically all week for Christmas, and I used it a lot in November. I actually tried every single shimmer in November before December rolled around. I originally wasn't going to do that because I wanted to use like other palettes in my collection, and since it wasn't Christmas yet, like it wasn't December yet, I wanted to use other palettes in my collection. But after trying this like a couple of times in November, I was like, I could not wait to use it again, because again, the shimmers in here are stunning and the mattes are so pigmented and beautiful. I did say that the multi-chrome Elf Wish was my favorite in this palette, and it's absolutely stunning. My other favorite shade, There's so many gorgeous shades in here. This shade New Year is insanely gorgeous. And then I have to mention these ones, but I'm just going to swatch. They're so beautiful. Just swatch those two. Look how insanely gorgeous those are. Do you see how pigmented they are? And then Christmas Tree is a gorgeous green. I mean, this combo of this on the lid and this on the crease and this on the inner corners would be a stunning look. I love orange and green looks together. And I tried like so many different color combos, but I also kind of want to reach into this palette again and use the rest of the shimmers I wasn't able to use during the Christmas season, which is Snowman and Bless. But I use this a ton and I love it. It's so gorgeous. And I'm sorry if you couldn't get your hands on it, but Oden's I be doing their thing, okay? Like, they come out with bangers, and this was a banger. So, I knew that this was going to be a ridiculously popular collection because it's stunning. So, I absolutely love this palette. All right, you guys, that is it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had so much fun filming this one. Sorry I was, like, stumbling today, but again, your girl is a bit tired. So, please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CBW819 and check out my Poshmark at the same handle. What was your most used eyeshadow palette this past year? I would really love to know. Did you try any of these palettes? What were your thoughts? Every time I ask like these questions at the end of the video, usually nobody answers me about them. They usually just say, I love the palettes you mentioned or something like that. But truly tell me what your favorite was. I would really love to know. I'm Miss Nosy. So I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a great day, and I hope you're having a great start to your new year. And yeah, I've been kind of enjoying all this time off. So yeah, I love you guys. Bye.